Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Rita. Today we are going to do a reaction video. Now this video is a few weeks old. It is the one that went kind of viral of the lady on the plane who addressed a man who was sitting next to her over his text messages. Yes, she addressed him over his text messages. So I'm going to try this whole reaction. I've done one before, one reaction video, but I'm going to try to do another one because this one is kind of weird to me. But before, let me not even go into it. I'm just going to go ahead and play the video, and yeah, let's see how this all goes.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I decided I want you to feel as uncomfortable as I do, and I want you to know that I saw your text messages and I think you're disgusting.
What text message?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to repeat it because everybody doesn't need to know, but I want you to know that I know. I saw you and I think that you're disgusting. You don't have anything to say to that, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we go on here, I just want to say, why? So flying is, for me anyway, uncomfortable enough. You already feel like you should have a privacy screen because not that you're doing anything nefarious, but because you don't want people looking over your shoulder, looking at what you're watching, looking at your text messages. And this lady is looking at this man's text messages. That's number one. We have entered a phase in society where people are completely and utterly shameless about invading people's personal spaces, intimate spaces, looking at whatever kind of private thing they have going on. So that's number one. So this is all weird to me that she's even admitting to looking at this man's phone and his text messages. But let's go on.
I didn't think so. And speaking of, yeah, you should. And speaking of airlines weeding people out, maybe if they raise prices, you know, maybe you wouldn't be able to afford to sit with your family. That way they don't have to sit next to black people.
Okay, so apparently in the guy's text messages, he was texting something about how he hopes that the airlines will raise their prices and maybe he won't have to sit next to black people. Obviously, the implication is that black people can't afford to pay more, so black people won't be on the plane. And obviously he said something about the people in the alphabet community as well, is my understanding from the reports. I'm going to play some more. Okay, so So as you can see, more people responded in the comments saying, "You go, girl. I would never have been able to do that. Like, good for you." Kind of rooting her on in this endeavor. Now, how do I feel about this? Was the guy wrong about what he was saying? And I think it's not even a matter of whether or not he was wrong necessarily. This is this man's personal business. He's texting somebody on his phone. That's number one. Has she not been looking over his shoulder or looking down at his phone to see what he was texting? I mean, she had to have been reading his text messages before she even knew what he was saying. So she was already in the wrong for being nosy, because had she been minding her own business, she would never have seen the text message. That's number one. So she was wrong in that. Number two, this incessant need to confront people about the things that they're doing in public spaces is very strange to me. It is very strange to me. Like, I was watching some video where there was a protester and people were coming up to the guy and saying like he shouldn't even be on the public sidewalk able to say these things. And it's like, where usually if somebody said something or was wearing a sandwich board or whatever that you didn't like, you would typically, back in the day, you would just keep it moving. Like, nobody cared. You would just keep walking. You wouldn't stop and tell the person basically they have no reason to exist because you don't like what they're saying. I feel like this was this guy's personal phone and he can say whatever he wants. You're the nosy one looking all over this man's shoulder in his business, trying to see what he's typing. What if it had been something intimate between he and his wife or something, and you're all nosing around looking over this man's, anyway, so that's kind of, it is too much. Here's the other thing. With all the comments, people agreeing, yeah, you go girl. I would never have had the courage to do that. I would never have done that. Well, good, because I'm glad you wouldn't have done it. Whatever happened to be the bigger person? Why feed into this guy? Obviously, for whatever reason, you don't know if he's had a bad experience or if he's just a flat out racist or whatever the case may be. Why affirm his beliefs or suspicions? See, here's the thing about this whole racism movement, this whole everything is racist. People who think of everything as being racist and they are totally heartbroken and offended because somebody is racist toward them or whatever the case may be. Somebody said something they didn't like and people are all melting, and falling all over themselves and they have to confront everybody who doesn't like them and has something to say. Why affirm his beliefs? Why affirm his suspicions? The way in which I think this would have been better handled is if she would have given him a reason to doubt his beliefs. She would have given him a reason to challenge his suspicions about being on a plane with black people. Okay, I'm here to tell you, even black people cringe when they see a few other black people, depending on what they look like, get on the plane or a bus or wherever, public transportation, whatever it may be. A lot of black people who aren't hood acting cringe. Now, I'm not saying she was hood acting. I'm just saying. So I can't imagine what your average white person or whatever who sees nothing but riots, twerking and looting and all this other crazy stuff. Forget about the strong arm robberies and carjackings. And the not to mention in recent years, all of the shenanigans on planes perpetrated by black people. You have to understand, this is where this man may be coming from. I mean, he may be just a blanket racist. He could be. I don't know the guy, but it could just be that he's thinking, oh, I hope this is not going to be a Spirit Airlines situation.
Separated them before things escalated any further. Even so, flight attendants say what happened that day points to a much larger problem.
I'm trying to give you a pay. I'll break your mother neck in here.
A fisticuffs between a pair of Spirit Airline passengers making waves on social media. The dust-up went down at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta.
Because that's what I would be thinking. Well, first of all, I don't do Spirit. Y'all better stop doing Spirit. But anyway, he doesn't know if this is going to be a Spirit Airlines situation. What she could have done was she could have played that real cool. She could have been really nice and really caused this guy to challenge his perceptions. Because here is my thing. When people talk about racism in this country and anti-racism and wanting to get rid of racism and systemic racism and all this other stuff, why is the response always some vitriolic, violent, snappy, I'm going to get you type of response? Why does it always seem to be more about a vendetta than it is about you conquering racism or whatever it is? If you really wanted to change people's perceptions, if you really had a problem with people being racist toward you, why would you affirm the very things that they don't like? The very reason this man probably didn't want to sit next to a black person is because he thought that there would be some drama. And lo and behold, you gave him what he wanted. Why do that? Why affirm his suspicions? Because that's all you did. If anything, it's making it worse. So then the question has to be asked. People who decry racism about everything and how they want to end racism, do they really? Or is it really more about some bitter vendetta? Is that what it's really about? Because it seems like if you really want racism to end, you would not affirm people's beliefs that if I sit next to a black person, I'm going to have drama. Are they going to be fighting on the plane? Are they going to be yelling on the plane? Are they going to be looking over my shoulder, disrespecting me in some way? Because that's what I've been seeing from black people all over these airline videos. Black people fighting, cursing, swinging on passengers, swinging on flight attendants. Is this what I'm going to have to deal with black? Are they going to be loud? Is this what I'm going to have to deal with? Because this is what people are seeing. And then what do? You get on there, all in the man's business, looking at his phone, and do what? You gave him a reason to text what he texted. Now, I don't know about the other stuff that he was texting, but like I said before, obviously you affirmed it. You could have turned this around. You could have been super nice to the guy and had a good chat with him and made him get off that plane and rethink his whole everything. Like, why? I can't believe it. Like, I was thinking one way about black people, but this lady really, wow. It could have been that kind of situation. But see, I think that number one, people have a huge lack of self-control. I don't know what happened to the be the bigger person and the kill 'em with kindness, all those things. You know, Proverbs has something to say about this. Proverbs, I think 15:1 says, a gentle word turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs it up. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it says. And there's truth to that. So, and I've actually had an experience with something like this when I used to wait tables. I won't make it a long story, but basically there was an older gentleman who was raised in a very small rural community in the South. He was in there with his grandson, who I guess was living in the city. This is when I worked in Chicago. And the older man, it was meant to be a compliment, but he used the word colored. I did not even flinch. The man was like 80. Okay. I did not even flinch. I am not so fragile that I am going to just burst into pieces just because somebody used a term toward me that I didn't like, or somebody said something. As long as somebody is not threatening me with violence, what do I care? Like, what do I care what you think and what do I care what you say to me? Like, I'm not going to, it may be rude. Okay. But basically the man said that. I understood it as a compliment. The grandson was mortified, apologizing nonstop. I had to tell him it was fine. Finally, I came over. I took their order. I didn't treat them any differently. I didn't talk to my coworkers about it because it really wasn't a huge deal to me. It really wasn't. At the end of the day, the old man apologized profusely, said he didn't mean to offend me. I told him I didn't take any offense to it. And that was the end of that. He was sorry. They had a good experience. They tipped me well. Who knows? Maybe the guy walked away thinking, oh, wow, that was a good experience. I could have sent him away with all this. I could have sent him away with that, and I could have had all my, people in the, oh my gosh, no, he didn't say, oh, what a racist. I could have, but no, why, for what? For what? I'm just saying there are better ways to handle these types of situations than the way I often see them handled. That's what I'm saying. And this chick on the plane looking at this man's text messages, how invasive. But that's the age we're living in. With social media and cameras on phones, people are completely invasive and feel like they have a right to say whatever, do whatever, look at your phone, record you in the locker room in in Lifetime Fitness or whatever. Like, I don't get it. If she would have never been looking at that man's phone, she would have never known. Who knows? Maybe her flight would have been better. So she put that on herself. I blame her. Shouldn't have been looking at his phone. You can't punish people for the things that they do in secret, because you're not supposed to be in there nosing about anyway. He was texting whoever he was texting and minding his own business, and you got in his business. So if your feelings were hurt, it's your fault, dear. It's your fault. That's all I have to say. We got to do better, people. We got to do better about de-escalation, how we handle these situations, and not being so overly sensitive about what people are saying. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Until next time, ciao. God bless.